All right. Hopefully, Sonia has a minute there to start the cloud recording. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ibug Introductory Mac Training Program for Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. I'm your instructor, Chanel Allen, and today we will be talking all about the Finder, finding your way through the Finder. As far as our iBug announcements, this week we have Trekkie Talk on Thursday from 8 to 9:30. We're watching The Next Generation, Season 3, Episodes 21 and 22. And if you're not on the iBug Mac and Talk list or signed up as a user on iBug today, I highly encourage you to do that. That way you can get all of these events. Sonia recently sent out a monthly schedule of the events for February. So if you need me to email that to you, please let me know. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get started with the questions, which I was so busy talking and kind of forgot all about. Oh no, they're right here. All right, so I'm going to. Oh, the movie for this Friday at the Friday night at the virtual movies is To Kill a Mockingbird, and that starts at 7:30. With the social and the movies at 8, and I know that was a great book, so I'm sure it's an awesome movie as well. All right, so the questions. Okay. What settings should you check or adjust in the navigation category of the VoiceOver utility? Who would like to answer that? You should be able to unmute.
I think I'm unmuted, am I?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm just hitting the space bar. This is Nancy.
Yep. Hi, Nancy.
I said I would have to go into navigation and look and see what's there because I don't remember what's
Okay.
there and what is important to check or uncheck. That's kind of how I answered a lot of the questions for this week. I have to admit, I was just like, God, I'm gonna have to go look all this stuff up again.
Yeah, I think I mentioned you may want to look some of this stuff up, but that's okay. The main thing in the voiceover navigation is just making sure the keyboard focus and voiceover cursor are in sync. And you can turn on, how you want to interact, things like that. Set whether the voiceover cursor or the mouse cursor follows or ignores the voiceover cursor. So things like that. Okay. Under which category do you turn audio ducking on or off?
This is Marion.
Yes, Marion.
Sound.
Yes, very good. All right. And why would you want to select a different device, still talking about sound, such as your speakers or headphones, for voiceover output? Yeah, so why would you want to select a different device for voiceover output?
This is Nancy.
Yes, Nancy.
So if you're sharing sound, like if you want to have it go through a speaker instead of just through the computer speaker.
Very good. Yep. Awesome. All right, let's see. I'm just going to kind of find a question. I've landed on 9. I'm going to try to put these in more random order so we're not always. But let's see. When opening system preferences, what are 2 ways of navigating past the toolbar to preference panes or categories?
Sorry to interrupt. We have somebody on here called First Prez. Is that a student or is that?
Oh,
Sorry, that's Jason. I have another
Okay.
Zoom thing. It must be having a conflict.
Sorry, just want to. I'm keeping roll here, so I just wanted to.
yep.
right,
Okay.
sorry.
Well, welcome, Jason. So should I repeat the question? Basically, what are 2 ways of navigating past the toolbar to preference panes in system preferences?
This is Nancy, and I don't want to hog all the answers. So if somebody else wants to answer, go ahead. But
Well, I think you are on.
Okay,
So go ahead.
so you can use VO right arrow,
Mm-hmm.
and you can also use, I think the tab key.
Yep. Or VOJ. And the nice thing with VOJ is it already interacts you into an area. So it's kind of like tab technically does too. But VOJ, you just go right there. But yeah, either one, very good. Well, it sounds like today, maybe from what I've heard, it sounds like a few of you might be having a little bit of difficulty with this lesson. So, are there any questions on here on the focus questions that you would like me to answer or that we need to go over?
This is Marion.
Yes, Marion.
This is a general question. I
Sure.
struggled with, learning about all of the different settings in voiceover utilities and system preferences and everything, before really maybe understanding how and why I would use them differently or want to change them. I was saying to somebody, I'm a lazy default settings user, and I haven't explored settings a lot, which I'm not proud of, but it was overwhelming to kind of try and learn and memorize all these different settings and what they did and where they were without really having the perspective or the experience yet to think about them.
Okay, that makes sense. So I mentioned, and I think they are pretty much at their defaults. I sometimes forget how things are, when you start the computer. But verbosity is something like you would set to basically control how much voiceover feedback it gives you. Whether it speaks hints, whether it speaks announcements, the level of punctuation. In navigation, you can control how well, make sure that your voiceover cursor and keyboard cursor and things are in focus. We'll talk about the web and Safari next week. And so that affects things like, does the web page speak when it loads? How do the organization of your web rotor? What else? System preferences. We talk about, I just kind of mentioned some things to be aware of in each category, but I realize that may be overwhelming. So maybe at some point I can do a podcast or something to, just go over the settings that maybe you should check. Does anybody else want to provide some feedback on like what voiceover settings have you found most helpful to adjust?
This is Nancy.
Oh, go
Did
ahead,
somebody else?
Nan. Well, yeah, who else was speak? Was that Rosanna?
Rita,
Or Rita, I'm sorry.
do you want Nancy to?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I especially found the keyboard commanders. I like to keep my hands on the keyboard, and
Yes.
so setting those commanders, like I changed the default from male, option M to option A, so I could keep that right keyboard, right option key tapped, and press the letter with my left hand.
Definitely.
I really like that, and it's been extremely useful. And I think these nosing around in these system preferences and voiceover utilities is fascinating, and sometimes it's really scary because it's like, well, I don't know if I want to mess that up.
Well, you can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's what I found. I have a stereo speaker that was hooked to my old Windows PC that I decided I wanted to get brave and put it onto my MacBook. And so I first did it, and then I started playing around with you could force or route voiceover to the Mac in VoiceOver Utilities under Sound, and you can route the speaker for the system through VoiceOver preferences in Sounds. And it's
Yep.
like, holy God, I was in and out of both of those back and forth, and it really forced me to like, do I like it this way? Do I like it the other way? So I was going back and forth with that, and it's kind of like immersion by fire because you.
Yes.
So that's where that was my big revelation this week with voiceover utilities and voiceover preferences.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great, because the system default will, if the voiceover sound is set to that, then it'll just come out of whatever you've set in the regular system preferences. But if you wanted to just set voiceover to come out of your speaker, but all the other sounds to come out from your Mac, then you could do that too. So yeah, it's fun to mess around with that stuff.
It freaked me out a little bit because because I've never heard Alex that amplified. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
and it's like, whoa, is that what he really sounds like? so anyway, I'm gonna mute.
Okay, and so Nancy, what was your answer to the question?
Well, I was just going to say I kind of agree with Marion. I have to say I'm super excited that we're going to start working on Finder today and Safari, because I think as we get into the apps, which is what we really want to learn how to, and the utilities and all that are super important, but I think it'll give us more of a perspective of, oh, now this is when you would want to change something when you're in Safari. Now you can, and so if we have something to equate it to, it'll help us remember more why you would go into utilities or system preferences or something like that. So
That makes sense.
I think it's good to have the introduction that you gave us, but I think, at least for me, the way I learn is to practice, why would I use this? Where would I use this? And when I have that perspective, it really helps me, get it into my memory better. So
Definitely.
I'm personally really excited to get into the Finder. That has baffled me for all the time I've had this computer. It's like, okay, where
Sure.
did I put it in Finder? I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah, well, and the reason I did accessibility is kind of that's always some of the things, you first set up. But yes, you have to have a context to know what you want to set up. I can recommend the defaults or what should be defaults, and I try to explain those. But yes, speaking of Finder, let's get into that. I'm just going to mute, and we are going to talk about several things in Finder, beginning with the menu bar, Finder preferences, customizing the view, exploring the structure of files and folders, and copying, selecting, pasting, all that good stuff. And then maybe, if there's time, doing a little bit of searching and viewing the iOS device in the sidebar. All right, so hopefully my audio is coming through.
Desktop, Dropbox alias.
Let's
Actions
get
available.
started. Okay, so one thing from here on out, we are talking about apps. And the first couple things you want to do when you explore an app is go into the menu bar to kind of learn what's in the menu bar, because all of the app's commands are there. You may not know, what you want to use yet, but just kind of be aware of where things are at. And the other thing is every individual app has its own preferences. We talked about the VoiceOver utility, which was pretty extensive, but whether you're in Finder, TextEdit, Messages, Mail, Safari, they all have preferences. It's like the settings button in an app on the iPhone, whereas the settings app is pretty, contains lots of content related to the device in general and even some apps. But let's go to the menu bar. I mentioned I mentioned the command to get to the menu bar a couple times. It's VOM.
Menu bar, Apple.
And as I mentioned, you can just use the left and right arrows to move through the menu bar, down arrow to open, right arrow to expand a submenu, but let's just right arrow over to Finder.
Finder.
And I'll down arrow once.
Finder. Menu.
That opens the menu. And then we will just down arrow to hear the choices.
About Finder. Preferences ellipsis command, comma.
Notice it says Preferences ellipsis command, comma. Preferences is a universal keyboard command, just like Nancy and I were talking about new, Command N. We'll talk quite a bit about that, but the ellipsis usually means that there is a dialogue contained once you press Enter. But you'll want to pay attention to keyboard shortcuts. Even if you don't remember them, that's fine. It's just they're there. The more you come to the menu, the more you will hear them and the more likely you'll be to remember them. And then that saves you a few keyboard presses. Okay, so preferences.
Empty trash ellipsis, dimmed command shift delete.
Some of these are dimmed because they don't apply. I just emptied my trash a little bit ago because my Mac was being slow.
Services, submenu. Hide Finder command, H. Hide others command option, H.
This relates to visual stuff. I mean, it's not really hidden when we can command tab to get back into it. So,
Show all, dimmed. About Finder.
And there, you heard that little sound. I should have.
Show all, dimmed. About Finder.
There we go. So we wrapped back to the beginning. All right.
File,
moving
menu.
on. All right, there are a few things in the file menu. I pressed right arrow to get there, down
New
arrow.
Finder window, new
Oops.
Finder window command, N.
All right, so here we see our first iteration of Command N. It opens a new Finder window. And when the occasion to use a new Finder window is if you want to have more than one folder open at once. For example, if you're copying and
Share,
pasting
submenu.
files,
Print,
things like
quick
that.
make it
Hold on.
Finder, file, new Finder window command,
My
N.
hands are just randomly pressing keys today. Let's try this again.
New folder command shift, N.
And so if new Finder window is taken up with Command N, then you can use Command Shift N to create a new folder.
New folder with setup files command control, N.
That's the shortcut I'm on the
New
desktop.
New smart folder. New tab command, T. Open command, O. Open with submenu dimmed. Close window, dimmed command, W.
We can't close the only window that's open in the Finder, so that's
Get
why it's
info
dimmed.
command, I.
We will talk about get info in our lesson on text
Rename.
edit.
Compress setup files,
Oh.
rename.
Rename. Okay. The way you rename files on the Mac, if you don't want to come to the menu bar, is by pressing the Enter key. That is in the Finder itself when you are browsing through files. There are some instances, like Nancy and I were talking about earlier, adding a keyboard command to the keyboard commander to open an app, and I suggested pressing Enter to select the app, even though it was kind of in a Finder-like window. If VioSpace wasn't working, but normally when you are in the Finder itself, pressing Enter brings up a text box or text edit field where you can type the name of a file or review what's there. I use it sometimes to see how a file name is spelt, and then I press Escape. And the Finder should warn you if you're about to change an extension.
Compress setup files.
If you want to create a zip folder,
Duplicate command, D. Make alias command control, A.
alias is the same as a shortcut. So sometimes on Windows, you'll see, send to and then create desktop shortcut. The alias is the same thing. It's just the Mac's term.
Quick look setup files command, print, dimmed command, quick look setup files
Okay.
command, Y.
Quick look is more useful when you want to view the contents of a file without opening it. So some people use that for mail attachments.
Print, dimmed command, share, submenu, show original command, R. Add to sidebar, dimmed command control, T.
And there's add to sidebar.
Move to trash command, delete, eject, dimmed command, tags, interactive,
All
find
right.
command, F.
We
New Finder window command,
There we go.
N.
All right, I don't expect you to remember all of these, just kind of giving you an idea of what's here. When we go into the Mail app, we'll probably actually start directly with messages, but I'm just trying to get you in the habit of going into the menu bar just to be aware of what's available. We're going to skip over 2 menus now so we can go to the Go menu.
Edit menu. View menu.
Actually, 3 menus. Here we
Go
go.
menu.
And down arrow to open.
Back dimmed command left bracket. Forward dimmed command right bracket.
We are familiar with back from System Preferences.
Enclosing folder command up arrow. Recents command shift F.
And beginning with recents, you have a number of shortcuts here that take you to various folders on your Mac. So you can come to the Go menu to open those folders and or to learn the keyboard shortcuts associated with them.
Documents command shift O. Desktop command shift D. Downloads command option L. Home command shift H. Library command shift L. Computer command shift C. AirDrop command shift R. Network command shift K. iCloud Drive command shift I. Applications command shift A. Utilities command shift U. Recent folders submenu. Go to folder ellipsis command shift G.
You can also type in the name of a folder if you don't know exactly where it's located. You can type the tilde character, which is just shift and the accent key, and then a slash and then the folder name.
Connect to server ellipsis command K. Back dimmed command left bracket.
And we're back at the beginning of the menu. Now I'm going to press escape.
Set up files
and
alias.
we'll go through preferences.
Actions available.
And if you remember, the menu said the keyboard shortcut is Command comma, so here we go.
Preferences. Preferences window. Show all file name extensions checked checkbox.
Okay. For some reason, when going into Finder Preferences, it loves to say the Show All File Name Extensions, even though that's part of Advanced, even though that may or may not have been where I was recently. So when you're not quite sure where you are on the screen, in a dialog, the easiest way to get to the beginning is VO Home.
Toolbar.
Or VOFN left arrow, depending on your keyboard configuration. Okay, in System Preferences, the toolbar just contained back, forward, search, and show all. But when you open Preferences in a particular app, the toolbar generally contains the categories of settings that you can change. So we'll interact with VO Shift down
In
arrow.
toolbar. 4 items, advanced button selected.
It does not say advanced 404, maybe because I have medium verbosity set, I don't know. But I know you can know it's the last item when you VO right.
Advanced
and
button.
you hear the little thunk. So now I will VO left arrow.
Sidebar button, tags button, general button.
And I know general is the first category here, so I'll VO space, uninteract.
Out of toolbar.
And VO right.
Show these items on the desktop.
Okay. The first group of settings deals with the items to show on the desktop. For some of you, your desktop might be blank, or it might just have things you've downloaded, or whatever the case may be. But here are some things that you could actually have on the desktop. And Herbie reminded me, I think I mentioned this before, but the more things you have on your desktop, the more RAM it actually uses. So even though sometimes I think when you have an empty desktop, your Mac could say busy for other reasons, but it's just something to be aware of. So we'll continue.
Hard disks checked checkbox.
That's hard disks are your Mac's internal storage. My drive is partitioned into the Macintosh HD and Boot Camp.
External disks checked checkbox.
That's anything you plug into your Mac except CDs, which is another category. But external disks might be like a thumb drive, an SD card, anything that has other files on it.
CDs, DVDs, and iPods checked checkbox.
And then CDs, DVDs, and iPods. There's one thing in the sidebar we'll find CDs, DVDs, and iOS devices, and that actually needs to be checked to find your iPhone in the sidebar, but you can't, when you plug your iPhone into your Mac, you won't actually see it on the desktop, even if CDs, DVDs, and iOS devices is selected.
Connected servers unchecked checkbox.
Connected servers, that has to do with network stuff.
Dropbox. New Finder Windows Show pop-up button.
New Finder Windows Show. So I mentioned that you want to use the new Finder window when you want more than one folder open. Well, when you open a new Finder window, it has to open to something. So what is it going to open by default? I have mine set to Dropbox because that's where I do all my work, my creating files, saving files, uploading files, whatever the case may be. Everything is done in my Dropbox. But here are the other choices. I'll just press space.
Menu check mark, Dropbox.
And I still use space and VO space interchangeably sometimes. Let's down arrow.
MacBook Pro.
So that is, in the Go menu, we heard the word computer. And this is the same thing. I don't know why it calls it, so yours will probably say MacBook Air or Mac Mini, whatever your Mac is. It's just basically, it's a folder that lists all the drives connected to your computer.
Macintosh HD.
You could have it be your actual hard drive, so every new Finder
Other
window,
ellipsis.
opens with your
Check
hard
mark,
drive.
drop
There we
MacBook
go.
Pro. Macintosh HD. Bootcamp.
Bootcamp, that's my other partition.
Chanel.
Chanel, yours will have your name, and that's your user folder or home folder. So that contains documents, music, downloads, or iCloud Drive. And if you use iCloud Drive, that contains your desktop and documents folders.
Desktop. Documents. Desktop.
Desktop, in addition to being the main screen of the Finder, it's also a folder. So you could have new Finder windows open the desktop folder instead of the desktop that's shown kind of as the main Finder screen. Well, not instead of, but in addition to, because that desktop screen always has to remain open.
Documents. iCloud Drive. Recents. Other recents.
Recents. That's typically the default. That's probably where yours is. And that it'll show you all the files that you have worked with recently, whether that's saved or opened. So that'll just show you your recent files.
Other ellipsis.
Or other. And other is where I chose Dropbox.
Check mark, Dropbox.
Okay. We can press escape.
Set up files,
because I don't want to
alias.
change. Okay. Now
Actions
I
available.
updated my Mac today. And normally I can just press escape to get out of a menu, no problem. Well, it likes to take me out of preferences for some reason. Only started happening today, but I'll return to Finder preferences with Command comma.
Preferences. Preferences, window. Show all file name extensions. Check.
Okay,
Check.
again, we are not in advanced, but it's saying an advanced type option. I know the last thing we were on was near the end, so I'll do VO end.
Open folders and tabs instead of new windows. Unchecked. Checkbox.
VO left.
Dropbox. New Finder Windows show.
Okay.
Pop-up button.
And VO right.
Open folders and tabs instead of new windows. Unchecked. Checkbox.
Open folders and tabs instead of new windows. The easiest way to understand tabs and folders, I think, is you could have several tabs open in one folder. You also have, not in one folder, in one window. Kind of with Safari, you have pages that open in tabs. But for VoiceOver users, the main difference is, do you press Control-Tab to move between different tabs or Command-Accent? I've grown accustomed to pressing Command-Accent. I kind of like that. I can use, I like the spread, so I leave this box unchecked, but that's up to you. If you want to work with tabs, then rather than using Command N for a new Finder window, you would do Command T for a new tab. So that's up to you. If you want to just leave it as is, then don't worry about checking this box. And I'm not sure, though, if it is checked by default. That's sometimes why I go through some of these, too, is to recommend the default, because I don't always know, or defaults seem to change from OS to OS. Okay. Since I'm at the end here, rather than doing VO home and going all the way back up to the toolbar, a nifty little trick we can do is press Tab.
General button selected.
And we're back in the toolbar. If I tab again,
Tags button.
We get to tags. I'm not going into this category. Tags, I prefer to organize everything into folders and subfolders, but tags are an alternative to that. Maybe you have several files that you're working on in one project, and so those contain Word documents, pages, PDF files, PowerPoints, MP3s, M4, whatever, but they're all part of the same project. And so rather than putting them in the same folder, you label them with the name of the project. Tags have been compared to, let's say, when you're moving and you put a label on the boxes that are for kitchen furniture. And so all those things go together. And then maybe there's another tag for all the boxes with living room furniture. Tags can be useful to help you search in Spotlight, but I've never quite gotten accustomed to them. I don't know. I just love using my folders and subfolders. Oh, on iOS 14, you might be familiar with tags because you have the library on that last page. And so Apple, for example, created tags like, I don't know, productivity and finance, or just I have much more specific folders that I use, but that's kind of an example of tags. And so in the tags option in Finder, you can create some tags, delete some, like Apple has a bunch of colored tags, and Voiceover announces the color. So I'll let you explore those on your own. We can tab or VO right to
Sidebar.
and I will press space to select it. And then we could VO right to get to the last item, or tab to get to the last item. Or what I find, I like to do is, because tab will continue to take us through the toolbar, and if there were many more options, that would kind of be a pain, but we'll just
Out of
uninteract
toolbar.
and VO right.
Show these items in the sidebar.
Okay, so we have different categories of items to show in the sidebar. The sidebar does not show on the desktop, kind of the main Finder window, but whenever you open a new window, you will have the sidebar on the left unless you hide it. I do not use the sidebar when browsing through the Finder unless I am wanting to find my iOS device to back it up. But normally I just use the folder commands and then first letter navigation, down arrow, things like that. But whatever you open in the sidebar will be reflected in the list on the right. So the sidebar is kind of on the left and the list is on the right. Okay, so here are some favorites, categories of favorites you can have in the sidebar.
Favorites. Recents checked checkbox.
So again, that's your recent files.
AirDrop unchecked checkbox. Applications unchecked checkbox. Downloads checked checkbox. On my Mac unchecked checkbox. Movies unchecked checkbox. Music checked checkbox.
Okay, I normally don't have movies and music checked, but let's say you download quite a bit of content from Apple Music, or I think it's Apple Music, or the TV app. Maybe you purchase lots of movies and TV shows, then you might want to have music checked because that's where, and movies checked because that's where you'll find those things. Or maybe you import CDs onto your Mac. You have an external CD player device thing and you can use it to import CDs. And so maybe those do get uploaded to music. So maybe you want to have music showing so you can find them. I don't,
Unchecked.
so I will uncheck that.
Pictures unchecked. Chanel checked checkbox.
Again, that's the home folder. Yours will have your name.
iCloud.
And now we're on the iCloud category.
iCloud Drive checked checkbox. Desktop checked checkbox. Documents checked checkbox.
One thing with iCloud, if you go into System Preferences and your name, and then, it'll actually say System Preferences, and then it'll have the Apple ID, and then under that is iCloud, and it'll show the apps that are using iCloud. If iCloud Drive is checked, and then you further customize those options, Desktop and Documents, I believe it's also checked by default, but if you use iCloud Drive, your Desktop and Documents folders, rather than being moved from your user folder, will be in your iCloud Drive folder, which is still technically in your user folder, but you just find them in a slightly different spot.
Locations.
And then here are locations. That's another category.
MacBook Pro checked checkbox. Hard disks checked checkbox. External disks checked checkbox. CDs, DVDs, and iOS devices checked checkbox.
There's CDs, DVDs, and iOS devices.
Cloud storage checked checkbox.
I'm not sure if you'll have that on your computer. I think that's something new with Dropbox.
Close your computers unchecked checkbox.
I think that's Apple computers, but that are in the network.
Connected servers unchecked checkbox. Tags.
And then you'll have tags. If you've created any tags, you'll be able to check or uncheck whether they show in the sidebar.
Recent tags unchecked. Checkbox.
In addition to recents.
Recent tags unchecked.
Okay, so that
Checkbox.
is the sidebar. Now we just have one more category to cover. I'll press Tab
General button.
to get to the toolbar. And we could try to do AD. No, that
Tags
doesn't
button.
work. Okay. Sometimes you can do first letter navigation in these things. Sometimes you can't.
Sidebar. Advanced button.
I'll do VO space,
Out
uninteract.
of toolbar.
And here we go.
Show all file name extensions. Checked. Checkbox.
I like to have all my file name extensions showing, but I think the Mac is pretty good at reporting what type of file you are focused on, even if you don't have them showing.
Show warning before changing an extension. Checked. Checkbox. Show warning before removing from iCloud Drive. Unchecked. Checkbox.
You may want that checked if you use iCloud Drive extensively.
Show warning before emptying the trash. Checked. Checkbox.
Just in case you accidentally press Command-Shift-Delete.
Remove items from the trash after 30 days. Unchecked. Checkbox.
If you are concerned about storage, you could have your Mac remove things from the trash after 30 days. That's one maintenance task it can help you with.
Keep folders on top.
Keep folders on top. Okay.
In Windows when sorting by name. Checked. Checkbox.
When this option is checked, it means that in a list of files and folders, you will see all of the folders listed first in alphabetical order. First in numbers and then in alphabetical order. And then under that are the files. If it's unchecked, then the files and folders will be listed together in alphabetical order. So you may actually have, a folder and then a file, or a file and a folder, just kind of where they happen to be in the alphabet. So it's up to you. Sometimes I like it checked. If I want to see all my folders first, I'm always looking for a folder, so I don't want to have to encounter file names when I'm looking for a folder, so then I would have this checked, but it's up to you.
On desktop. Checked. Checkbox.
And I don't know why they have that there. I don't really think it matters, but
Search this Mac. When performing a search, pop-up button.
okay. There is a spotlight search you can do, but there's also a more extensive Finder search. And you can use Command Option Space, not Control, but Command Option Space. Or I found it easiest when I want to do more detailed search to do Command Option F, and then I can specify criteria. But basically, by default, this lets you choose
Menu check mark. Search this Mac.
whether the contents of your entire Mac are searched,
Search the current folder.
or the current folder,
Use the previous search scope.
or use the previous search scope from your last search. It's easy enough to change the setting if you change your mind once you do a search, so it really doesn't matter how you have it set.
Set up files. Alias.
And I think that was the last
Actions
item there.
available.
I pressed escape, which should have taken me out of the menu, out of the actual menu, but it didn't. So now let's talk about setting the view. Oh, wow. Okay. We have about, 45 minutes left. Okay. We will go into the computer, or Command-Shift-C.
Computer. MacBook Pro. Window. List view. Table.
And there are two types of views for Finder. Two views that are recommended for VoiceOver users. There's column view and list view. Your reading assignment was updated last February, I think, but I think some things have changed since Big Sur. So I recommend for especially if you're transitioning, coming over from Windows, I recommend list view. But some people love column view, and I think I'm going to start using it more myself. It's just a little bit different in terms of the process of pasting or opening folders. Do you use right arrow as opposed to Command O or Command down arrow? Your reading assignment mentions setting the view globally for a drive. And so then what you would do is go in the view menu or use the keyboard shortcut to set the view to what you want first. I'm finding lately that sometimes I need to set the view. It doesn't work to really set it for the drive. It's because I would play around with this and I'd still have some folders in columns, some in list view. they didn't change back to the defaults even when I tried to make the defaults or set the defaults for a drive. So you might just find it easier to do, your preferred command and then maybe go into view options. So I can do command 2 for list
As
view,
list checked.
which I think was already selected. Let's just go through the view menu,
Menu bar, Apple,
and so you can
view.
kind of get an idea of what's here.
View menu as icons command 1.
Every new drive, I think, will automatically open in icon view. And so any new drive you plug into your Mac. And so then you'd want to change the view when you open the drive.
Check mark as list command 2, as columns command 3, as gallery command 4.
I'm not quite sure what gallery is and how accessible it is to VoiceOver users.
Use groups command control 0.
I have not experimented with the use groups.
Sort by submenu.
Okay, so we can choose different categories.
Sort by submenu check mark name command control option 1.
Okay. Notice it says command control option. Well, we know automatically control option. Oh, that's one of the options for the VoiceOver modifier. So if you ever want to make these sort by changes and not go to the menu, you need to do the pass through command first with VoiceOver, which is VO tab, and then you could press the keys that it mentions.
Kind command control option 2. Date last opened command control option 3. Date added command control option 4. Date modified command control option 5. Date created. Size command control option 6. Tags command control option 7. Check mark name command control option 1.
All right, and so since we pressed right arrow to expand the sort menu, we'll press left arrow to collapse it and get back into the main view menu.
View menu sort by sub clean up selection dimmed.
Not quite sure what that
Clean
is.
up by submenu dimmed. Hide sidebar command option S. Show preview command shift P. Hide toolbar command option T.
Technically, we don't really need the toolbar showing because normally everything that's in the toolbar is accessible with keyboard commands or menus, but it's not really in the way, so I just leave it.
Show all tabs command shift backslash. Hide tab bar command shift T. Hide path bar command option P. Show status bar command slash. Customize toolbar ellipsis. Customize touch bar ellipsis. Show view options command J.
And here we are in show view options. So if I press enter.
Show view options. MacBook Pro window. Always open.
Okay, notice it says MacBook Pro.
MacBook Pro window.
And we were technically pointed to Macintosh HD. And your reading assignment, says that's sufficient, and so it should change the options for Macintosh HD. I don't think it does, so I'm going to press escape.
MacBook Pro window.
And now
List
we're
view,
going to
table.
open the Macintosh HD.
Bootcamp Macintosh HD volume.
Actually, we weren't focused on that, but if we did Command J,
Show view options. MacBook Pro window.
it would still
Always
say
open MacBook.
MacBook Pro. So let's open
MacBook
this
Pro.
with Command down arrow or
window.
Command O. You can use either one
Macintosh
interchangeably. It doesn't
HD
matter.
volume. Open selection. List view.
Okay, and then you would make sure it's set on list or column, whatever you want. So Command
As
2,
list
I
checked.
would do, and then Command J,
Show view
and
options.
we'll look at
Macintosh HD
is
window.
available.
Always open in list view. Unchecked. Checkbox. Always
Okay.
open in list view.
If you always want something to open in
Macintosh
list view,
8.
then you'll want to check the box, and this goes for a folder as well.
Checked. Browse in list view. Checked. Checkbox.
And that, for some reason, was
Select
already
if you want to
checked.
set the default style of this window to list view. None. Group by pop-up button. Name. Sort by pop-up button. Icon size. Small icon size. Large icon. Small icon size. Select large icon 12. Show columns.
Okay, if you use column view, you're not going to see show columns. In list view, the columns just pertain to info about the files or folders. In column view, the files and folders themselves are organized into different columns. I think that's how I understand it. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but these are things you would check or uncheck if you're using list view.
iCloud status dimmed unchecked. Check date modified unchecked. Checkbox.
I like to change, sometimes I like to have that column checked, but I'm making sure these are unchecked because we're going to do some copying and pasting, and Voiceover is really a chatterbox if these things are checked.
Date created, unchecked. Date last opened, unchecked. Date added, unchecked. Size, unchecked. Kind, unchecked. Check version, unchecked. Comments, unchecked. Tags, unchecked. Use relative dates, unchecked. Calculate all sizes, unchecked. Checkbox.
I'm not sure what calculate all size, because it kind of gives you the size already, but
Show icon preview, unchecked. Checkbox.
okay, you should not have the icon preview. You should have the icon preview unchecked. Or if you're in column view, these view options will say show preview column. You'll want that unchecked so that it doesn't keep the folders open when you return to them.
Use as defaults button dimmed.
Use as defaults. I don't know why it's dimmed because I made that change to always open in list view, but it is dimmed. So if it wasn't though, you'd press VO space. I'm going to get out of here.
Macintosh HD window list view table.
All right, and now we're going to look at the folders in this drive, and we'll go to my iCloud Drive folder. So here we go. I'm just going to down arrow, and we will open folder. So in list view, you could technically press right arrow to open a folder. The problem is that when you come back to it later on, let's say you close the Finder window and you open that same folder again, it'll still be, the subfolder or whatever will still be expanded. So I don't recommend opening folders with the right arrow if you're in list view. I kind of like to compartmentalize. If I'm in column view, I use right arrow. If I'm in list view, I use command down arrow or command O to open. But I mean, really it's up to you. As I've said, there really are no musts on the Mac. I would technically say you must not interact in the Finder, but you don't need to interact, but if you really want to interact, I suppose you could. You don't need to interact because there's nothing you need to do with VoiceOver unless you want to explore how something is spelled. Now, we do need to interact in the sidebar, definitely, and we'll have to uninteract out of the list view, whatever, to get to the sidebar. But when you're just using the Finder casually, you should not need to interact.
Library folder.
All right.
Applications folder.
We go to the first item in the list with option up arrow and the last item with option down arrow.
Library folder. System folder. Users folder.
All right, and that's all there is in terms of folders here on this main drive. So I'll press command down arrow.
Open selection. List view table. Chanel folder.
And command down arrow.
Open selection. List view table.
And let's find iCloud Drive.
Applications folder. Downloads alias.
For some reason, I'm seeing an applications folder both in the main drive and in my user folder. I'm not sure if that's new with Big Sur.
Dropbox folder. iCloud Drive. Archive folder. Library folder. Movies folder. Music folder. Pictures folder. Public folder.
If some of you come back later on and do the down arrow, you might find desktop and documents here. But if you have enabled iCloud Drive, as I have, then they will be in the iCloud Drive folder. And if I don't really want to press up arrow to go back through the list, I can simply press IC.
iCloud Drive, Archive,
and then
folder.
Command O. I do Command O because, well, I'm typing letters, so my fingers are closest to the letters. But if I'm using the arrow keys to navigate, then I do Command down arrow to open. It's just my preference.
Open, list view, table.
Okay. Now we will, so I could do here D for documents, or DO, but let's just look at what's in here.
A CBT 2020 program, Castro folder.
What I'm seeing in iCloud Drive are also the apps, whether they're on my phone or Mac, that also store things in iCloud Drive.
Desktop folder. Documents folder. Downloads folder. Drafts folder.
I think I added a downloads folder to my iCloud Drive, so you may not have
Downloads,
one.
drafts folder. Numbers folder. Pages folder. Reader folder. Shortcuts folder. Text edit folder. Text edit to folder. Twitterific folder. ACBT 2020.
All right, and so then you have the files under that list of folders. Let's go back to the top with option up arrow.
ACBT 2020 program.
And we will go to documents with DO.
The documents folder.
and Command O to open.
Open. List view table.
All right, and so what we could do, just to give you an idea, we can do Command up arrow to get all the way back to where we started. So if we do Command up arrow,
Enclosing folder. List view table. Documents folder. Selected.
we are now in the iCloud Drive folders. If we do Command up arrow,
Enclosing folder. List view table. iCloud Drive.
we're now in my user folder, showing
Archive
all of
folder.
the
Selected.
folders. And you could go to the path bar to find that out. I think there's also another way to find out which folder you're in. You can also do VOF2.
Chanel window. One window.
So that's one way to tell. We Command up arrow again.
Enclosing folder. List view table. Chanel folder. Selected.
And we should be in users, so if we do VOF2.
Users window.
Yep.
One window.
If we do Command up arrow again.
Enclosing folder. List view table. Users folder.
And
Selected.
VOF2.
Macintosh HD window.
And if we do
One
Command
window.
up arrow one more time.
Enclosing folder. List view table. Macintosh HD volume.
And VOF2.
Select MacBook Pro window.
All
One-
right. And so I'm here. I am just going to now to quickly get to documents. Even though documents is in iCloud Drive, I can still use Command Shift O to access it. I think in the past it would only take you to the local documents folder, but it now works to take you to the documents folder in iCloud Drive. Or we could have just done Command Shift I for iCloud Drive and then type DO for documents, but there's always ways to navigate. Okay, so Command Shift down arrow.
Documents. List view table.
And here we are. I want to create a folder in Documents called Finder Practice. And I saw in the menu bar earlier that to create a new folder, we can use Command Shift N. And so let's do that now.
New folder. Waiting to update button. Today at
Okay.
19:54.
Sometimes it's iCloud, so I'm just going to start typing Finder
Selection replaced.
Practice.
Cap F.
It didn't
Finder.
tell me that I was in an edit field. If it didn't tell you, or if you thought it escaped or something and then you find the Untitled folder, you can always press Enter to rename it. And let me just make
Practice.
sure I wrote the word practice.
Practice. RACTICE.
I did not. So let's delete that.
ECAR.
Oh well.
Space.
Okay. Here we go.
Documents window. List view table. Finder practice folder. Today
Okay.
at 19.
So we've created a folder in Documents called Finder
Selected.
Practice. If I Command down arrow,
Open selection. List view
that
table.
will open it. Okay, and so that's in iCloud. I now want to find something in Dropbox, and we actually want to go to a folder. And so if I was to, let's say, go to the sidebar and open my Dropbox folder here, that would be fine, except it would replace what's already open. So what you want to do is, if you want more than one folder open at once, you press Command N.
New Finder window. Dropbox window. List view table.
And Dropbox is my new Finder, is the folder that opens by default, but I have a specific location in mind. And so I'll type CH
Chanel
for
folder.
Chanel, Command O,
Open. Ibug
IB,
folder.
Command
Open.
O,
List Star
ST,
Trek folder.
Command
Open.
O,
List
N,
next gen.
Command
Open.
O,
List view.
and there we go. So using keyboard navigation, I know I was talking over VoiceOver, but that's why sometimes I find keyboard navigation almost quicker than creating all these extra keyboard commands. So anyway, we are in this folder, and I have a number of sequential files here, and so we'll use this to talk about selecting, copying, and pasting. Okay, if you want to select several files in a row, how would we do that? Well, we'd find the first file that we want to select.
100 to encounter at farpoint.txt.
So we're
plain
actually
text
on
document.
the first file. Let's just say we start with the first file in the thing, and then do Shift down arrow.
103 the naked now.txt plain text document. Added to selection. 2 rows selected.
So even though we hit Shift down arrow and it went to 103, we still selected 102 as well. And so we could just continue on
107
and
the
select
last
several
outpost
just with
text
Shift
plain
down
text
arrow.
document. Added to
You could-
selection. 6 rows selected.
Okay. You could go anywhere in here and start shift down arrow. You don't have to start at the top. You can also do things like select, let's say I found 150 and I wanted to select from 150 all the way down to the last file. That would be Command Shift down arrow. Or if I wanted to select from 150 to the first item, that would be Command Shift up arrow. And then of course you have select all with Command A. So let's just do Command Shift down arrow. Okay, that is what, for some reason, those are not working. So I'm not sure. The reading assignment on the Finder mentions you can use those commands, but whatever, it's not working. Maybe I shouldn't have done shift down arrow and then try to do that command, but you can try it if you'd like. To verify what's selected, we will press VO F6. So going back to our function keys.
6 rows selected, name, 100 to encounter at farpoint.text.
And it'll continue to tell us what's selected.
Row 2.
Okay, here's the opportunity to introduce the context menu.
Row 3.
And the context menu contains
100.
items or options that are specific
4.
to whatever is selected or whatever is in
105.
focus. Okay, I press Control and
Row 5.
VoiceOver will not shut up.
Name.
It's supposed to when you press Control. It's supposed to
Row
pause
6.
speech, but
Name.
it does not. All right, so VO Shift M
Menu.
brings up the context menu. Now if I down arrow,
New folder with selection, 6 items.
we could create a new folder with selection.
Open.
We could open all of these.
Open with submenu. Move to trash. Get info.
Unfortunately, when we go into the context menu, we don't see the keyboard shortcuts associated with these things. Those you'd find in the menu bar, but at least this is a quick way of accessing something that maybe doesn't have a keyboard shortcut.
Rename 6 items. Compress 6 items.
You could, by compressing, that means you could create a zip folder or file.
Duplicate. Make alias.
We could create aliases to these and then copy those aliases to the desktop.
Quick look 6 items. Copy 6 items.
Okay, I think we return to copy.
Share submenu.
Or maybe
Tags.
okay.
Interactive.
In tags, you can assign a tag that is already created. So I don't have any created, but if we were to actually interact, you would see all the different tags here that you could assign.
Quick actions submenu. Send with transfer ellipsis. Smart sync submenu.
Smart Sync is on Dropbox.
Create service.
That's okay.
Create workflow. Send file to Bluetooth device. New folder with selection. 6 items.
Okay, and we're back to the beginning. So I'm just going to, let's find copy. I'll just press CO.
Compress 6 items.
Or no, COP.
Copy 6 items.
There we go. Normally I would press Command C, but we'll just do that later. So enter.
List view. Table. 6 cells selected. List
Okay,
view.
and then if we go over to this other folder with Command Accent, because
Cycle
that's
through
open.
windows. Finder practice. Window. List view. Table.
And then we could either do paste with Command V or move with Command Option V. Instead of cut in the Finder, you have Command Option V. So Command V pastes and Command Option V is the equivalent of cut, but it's called move to. So we'll just do Command V.
Paste 6 items.
Okay. And you can always undo if you didn't mean to copy or delete or paste or whatever. You can do Command Z.
Undo copy of 6 items.
Okay, let's go back and talk about non-contiguous selection.
Cycle through windows.
Or
set up file. Cycle through windows.
the
Next generation.
less fancy term for that is
Window.
selecting files that are not in a row. This is the one time you definitely need to interact in the Finder. And because we're using a VO command, so you'll want to, the command to toggle on the selection is VO related, so that's why we have to interact. So VO Shift down
In
arrow.
list view. Table. 6 cells.
And
100.
okay, we can, those 6 cells shouldn't have still been selected. You can always verify with VOF6, but I do know they're not. So you could just find, let's say we wanted to select from, I don't know, 160 or
160
something.
the high ground.
And so then what you would do is press Command VO Enter to turn on the selection. That would select your first item.
160 the high ground BRF mail
And
document.
let's say we
Added to
wanted
selection.
to select the two files away.
100,
So
161 days QBRF mail app document.
some of these are different because I have a text document or BRF document, so they might still be the same number. So if we do Command VO Enter again,
161 days
we
QBRF
could,
mail app
continue
document.
selecting in a
161 day
row,
161
and then
days
skip
Q
down
text
like
pl-
10,
106
or
164
continue
the offspring.
selecting every other one. It really doesn't
Added to
matter.
selection for
The
items
point
select.
is we're selecting files that are not consistently in a row. Okay, so we did VO Command Enter to start the selection, just as a review. Well, first we interacted, then VO Command Enter, then VO down arrow to find the other files, and then VO Command Enter on each file you want to select. I'm going to press the copy command with Command C.
Copy for items.
And it makes a little sound indicating that the multiple selection has been toggled off. And then we'll do Command
Cycle
accent.
through windows. Finder practice window. List view
And
table.
we can do Command Option V to paste.
Move for items here.
And there we go. I am going to actually move them back. So let's see.
Full rows selected.
This time I do Select All with Command A, Command C,
Copy for items.
and then Command Accent.
Cycle through windows. Set up file. Cycle through
Command
windows.
accent
Next
again.
generation window.
And Command Option V.
Move for items here. 164 the
And there we
offspring
go.
BRF mail app
All
document.
right, I'm going to close this folder.
Row
And for some
103
reason these
cell.
say mail app dot.
three
It's like it doesn't
items
know what
has
BRF
alternate
is.
item.
But anyway, Command W.
Close window. Finder practice window.
And
List view table.
this folder should be empty. It sounds like it is. We're going to move up a level so we can delete this folder.
Unclosing folder. List view table. Finder practice folder.
Which has
Today at
focus,
20.
so we can just press Command Delete to move it to the trash.
So move to trash. Perky.auto saves folder.
And
October
that's another
23rd,
folder.
2020.
If we want to empty the trash from wherever we are in Finder, we can just press Command Shift Delete.
Empty trash. Alert dialog.
And if you press Enter, that will choose the default option.
Cancel button. Are you sure you want to permanently erase?
And it did because it made that
List view.
sound. Okay, let's close this.
Perky.auto
If you have several Finder windows open, you can
October
close
23rd,
all of them
20
except the desktop
20
window,
at
that is, with Command Option W.
49. Close all. Set up files. Alias.
And we're back on the desktop. Okay.
Actions available.
So I know there was at least, somebody in the class, had trouble. They downloaded the recordings but had trouble finding them. So what can you do? Well, the easiest thing to use is Spotlight. I was trying to play with Siri earlier, and sometimes she'll cooperate, but she was not working, so I'm not going to try to do that now. But if you do Command Space,
Spotlight.
and let's say I'm
Spotlight
looking,
search.
the last recording we did was on January
Blank.
19th. I think the file begins with January 19th, but it also, I think you can type in that date. But I'm just going to type in JANUARY
Text inserted. Dim
19, and I did the
January
Command
19th.
Space, by the way. So I've typed that in.
Completion selected.
And now if we down arrow,
January 19th birthday cell 2 items.
no.
Completion selected. January 19th, 2021 cell 2 items. Completion selected.
Okay. And so it's kind of reading some things here. Spotlight organizes the results into different categories.
January 19th birthdays. Search January 19th, 2021. Search image. Forward image. January 19th. Wikipedia cell 4 items. Completion
Okay.
selected.
If one of these was an actual file, or if I knew that it was, I could press Enter to open it. In Spotlight, pressing Enter does not rename something. It will open, but right now we're not actually seeing the file name that we want. And sometimes in Spotlight, so sometimes you can open apps in Spotlight. Maybe you type System for System Preferences and then press Enter because System Preferences comes up. Or sometimes, though, you need to go into the table that shows the results in their different categories.
January 19th up table. January 19th.
So I'm going to interact with the table.
Selected.
I'm not sure if it's necessary, but
In
we
table.
will just to be safe. And
January
go to the
9th.
top with Option up arrow. And let's see.
January 19th. Wikipedia cell 4 items. Completion.
If we do VO down arrow, we might get a bit more detail.
January 19th. Siri knowledge cell.
Okay.
January.
So
Siri
the
knowledge
first thing
cell.
was Siri knowledge. I'm not sure if that was the exact first thing. So then if we just do VO down arrow.
January year 2000 mail and messages cell.
Okay, so then the other category is mail and message. If we were just pressing down arrow, we wouldn't hear the different categories, but we would eventually find what we want.
Mac course attended. Tech the announce list. What's new in JAWS? Kong, intercepted Russian, The Ballad of Curtis, VLC apps,
Okay.
iBug Buzz General, Winter 2000, proposed Mac course, proposed Mac,
Well, I think
Course-
it's at the top, and it didn't take us to the top. So option
completion
up arrow.
selected.
All right, it's not.
Year 2038 problem.
Oh
Wikipedia,
dear.
January,
Let's see. Well,
January 19th cell 2 items. Completion selected. January 19th birthday cell, empty cell, empty cell.
okay.
January 19th 2021 cell 2 item. January 19th birthdays, search.
Okay.
January 19th 2021, search image, forward Siri knowledge cell.
All right, it
January
was
19th, with January
not
19th,
quite
year 2038
being
mail
so
and messages
difficult
cell.
earlier.
January Capricorn with document
No.
cell.
Oh, there's.
Vocalizer use related search the web cell related
No.
document.
Okay,
Siri
so it
knowledge
should have shown us
cell.
one of the
Column
categories
1,
is
row 1,
Finder.
completion selected. January 19. Text delete.
Oh. Okay,
Finder.
so that didn't quite work the way we wanted. If we did, maybe I didn't get January spelled quite right. But we do need to go on and look in the sidebar. And so to open, maybe if there's time, maybe if some of you show up early next time, we could talk more about searching through the Finder. But for now, let's go to the sidebar. So I'm going to open a new window with Command N.
New Finder window. Dropbox
And then
window.
we're in the list of files, so I need to do VO Shift up
Out of
arrow
scroll area.
to uninteract. And the sidebar and lists, whether you're in Mail or Safari, Finder, are always going to be separated by a vertical splitter. So because we're moving from the list of files to the sidebar, we have to press VO left arrow twice.
Vertical sidebar table.
And let's interact.
In sidebar table. Favorites.
And I'm
Row
not
1,
sure if it's
collapsed
going to show
level
my
1.
phone because it's I have not unlocked it in a while. So let me just unlock it. It is connected. All right. It's unlocked. So let's find it now.
iCloud.
I'm just
collapsed.
pressing VO. So you usually need to interact in the sidebar as well. So you interact when you're selecting files that are not in the row or going into the sidebar.
Locations. MacBook Pro. Macintosh HD. Bootcamp. Tags. Collapse tags. Bootcamp.
Okay.
Macintosh. MacBook locations.
Well,
Expanded
why
3 items
is my
enclosed
phone
level
not
1.
showing? Oh, lovely. Technology loves to be cooperative, doesn't it? Not. Okay. Oh, is this not plugged in all the way? Let's see. Okay, and let's try that.
iCloud. Collapsed.
So I've collapsed some of these. To expand or collapse when you're using VO keys, it's VO \. If I wasn't interacting and just using down arrow, right arrow works to expand and left to collapse.
Locations. Expand MacBook Pro. Macintosh 8 Bootcamp. Tags. Bootcamp.
Well-
Mac. Location. iCloud. Favorites.
Okay,
Collapsed.
I guess we're not going to see my phone in the sidebar. Look at this one more time.
Favorites. iCloud. Location. MacBook Pro. Macintosh. Bootcamp. Tags. Collapse.
Okay.
Favorites. Collapsed. Row 1.
well,
Expanding.
I don't know
Download.
why
Drop.
this thing
Reasons.
is being
Chanel.
difficult.
Herbie. Setup. Chanel. 9 audio. iCloud. Locations. MacBook Pro. Macintosh. Bootcamp. Tags.
All
Collapsed
right,
level
so at this point then,
1.
unfortunately,
Zoom us.
we are
Zoom.
going to just take, well,
You are
fortunately for you,
sharing
but
computers.
unfortunately because the demo isn't quite
Stop
going as
share.
well as I'd like, we're going to take questions. So I will,
Mute checked.
everyone should be
sharing
able to unmute if you want to ask a question.
This is Rita.
Yes, Rita.
Okay. So when you're in the Finder and you open, like I do Command Shift I to open iCloud Drive,
Mhm.
and I locate a folder, so just say my iBug folder, okay? And then then I want to grab something, then I Command O to open that, okay? And then say I find a file within iBug and I Command O and I open that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then say I want to find something else from somewhere else, information, and copy it so I could put it in the certain file for iBug.
Uh-huh.
What I've been doing is Command M for minimize, and then I've been Command Tab back to the Finder, and I nose around, I VO down to find the other folder that I wanted, say my notes or something.
Right.
What is there a more? How would you do it?
Okay, so I would just I would depend. So if you're using column view or list view, if you're using column
List.
Okay,
List.
then yeah, you could do Command down arrow or Command O like you were to open things. You don't need to do, VO down arrow, especially if you don't interact. That might be confusing. I mean, you can interact if you want. I just don't. But then, yeah, when you're done, when you open that file, then I would just Command Tab. I usually don't bother minimizing. I would Command Tab, and then if the other file I wanted to open was in that same folder, I would just continue looking, down arrowing, or use first letter navigation. If it was in a different folder, I would try to, let's say I knew it was in documents, I would do Command Shift O, or if it was in, I would try to find the closest folder to the actual one I want. Or if you did put it in the sidebar, you could go to the sidebar and find it that way. And the thing, when you select something in the sidebar, you don't actually have to VO space on it. You just find it, and then you go back to your list of files. So there are so many different ways. Depending on if I wanted the original folder open, if I did, then I would do Command N for a new Finder window so that you could keep both folders open at the same time. Or if the thing was in the same folder, then you would just continue to down arrow or type the first few letters of the file name.
So if it's in the same folder, how do you
Yeah.
cycle? Do you Command accent to cycle within the windows of that folder? Or how do you?
Well, that folder should be
cycle?
open in its own window unless you have it set to open as tabs.
Okay, no, I don't. Okay.
So then, if you are in your document and you press Command Tab to go back to Finder, you'll be in that folder. Because that folder does not close unless you closed it with Command W before you, but it'll still be open in the Finder.
Okay, so then you just go back to it and Command O to open it again?
No, if it's already open, so then what you would do is find the file, and then you could Command O on the file.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah.
So I'm a little shaky on moving between documents. And
all right, well, let's
Finder.
yeah,
Finder,
let's try
Bootcamp,
to
window.
open something. All right, I'll go to my iCloud Drive,
iCloud Drive.
and let's
List.
try
Automate
to
Castro. Text edit. Open selection.
text edit,
List. Dinty quest. Trade and kit. Text.
I
Dinty
thought I
quest.
actually had a text
Document.
edit demo. All right.
Close window. Set
Well,
up
I'd need to try
files,
to
alias.
find a file. What's something I could open? I could open the discussion questions. So
Ibug alias.
I'm just going to Ibug on my desktop,
Open.
and then
Ibug.
that actually opens in
Window.
a Finder window. A folder, whatever. So then I can do MA
Mac training
for Mac
folder.
training.
Open. List view. Table.
FO
focus
for focus questions.
Open. List view.
And let's say I wanted to open the first
Lesson
one.
1 focus questions BRF mail.
Oh, that's
Lesson 1
BRF.
focus questions doc Microsoft.
All right, so then I can Command down
Opens
arrow to
text
open the
edit.
doc.
Lesson 1
Or
focus
Command
questions
O,
doc.
that would be the same thing.
Window.
Okay, I want to
Edit
open
text
another
insertion.
one.
Beginning of text.
Okay, so
then
Dear
I-
students,
so you've got,
here is the link to the first class
so you're
recording.
you've got one file open, right? Okay, got it. Okay, I'm
Yep,
with you.
so then I can
Okay.
Command Tab,
Finder.
Okay.
Focus questions.
Right.
Window.
and I'm back still in the focus questions. So
Lesson
let's
1
say
focus
I wanted to
Lesson 2
open
voiceover basics part 2 doc Microsoft Word.
this other file. So then I could
Okay.
Command down
Opens
arrow.
text edit. Lesson
Okay.
2 voiceover basics part 2 doc
And so
window.
then what
Edit.
happens is you have two files open in
Dear
text
students,
edit.
here
And
is the
so
recording
then
of
you would, in text edit, you would use Command accent
January
to move
lesson
between
1
the two
focus questions
files.
doc window. Lesson
Okay,
2
so
voiceover
Command
basics part 2
accent
doc window.
cycles
In text edit.
between.
Dear
okay.
students, Here is the recording
right.
of our second lesson. Desktop.
So I just, if you kept the Finder window open, you would just, Command Tab. So the things you kind of have to know are Command Tab and Command Accent. Command Tab takes you between open apps, and Command Accent takes you between, windows in those apps.
Okay. Then how do you get to another folder?
Text
If you've
edit.
got
Zoom
these
us.
two windows open,
Zoom
Mhm.
us.
how do you get
System
to another
Finder. Text
folder? Do
edit.
you
Finder.
Command Tab
Finder.
back to
Yep.
Focus
Finder?
questions.
I do. And then I could
Lesson
either
2.
open up a new folder here, or I could
January
do Command
12th.
N to keep this original folder open
2021.
so that we had two folders. It's so
January 12th.
let's say if I just wanted to open documents now,
Selected.
that would replace this focus questions folder that's open, unless I did Command N for a new Finder window, and then did Command. So if we want to just replace what's open, that's fine. I can just do Command Shift O.
Documents. List
So then
view.
we'd have documents open in the place of the focus questions folder.
Okay, I think I got a little bit better. Thank you. That's helpful.
Okay, awesome.
This is Nancy.
Yes, Nancy.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Do you know if Voice Stream Reader? I know I had heard last summer that he was going to try and develop a Voice Stream Reader app for the Mac. Do you know anything about that? If that happened?
I don't. That would be so awesome if it did. I know the people who have M1 Macs are able to download iOS apps, and I'm not sure if Voice Stream Reader is one of those. But if it is, then you might be able to at least download that on your Mac. But I don't think you have an M1. But I have not heard of when the Mac version will be available, or if that's still in the works. I don't know.
Okay. And my other question is, I've never understood what the advantage of the sidebar is. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Okay, I've never used it either. But the advantage is, let's say, if you're not so keyboard driven, because I try to have things organized in a way, or I know kind of where my folders are. I do first letter navigation, but maybe you have an iBug folder, and inside you have a mentees folder or something, and you don't want to spend all the time in the Finder, getting to it. You could add that folder to the sidebar, and then it would appear in favorites. And so then as soon as you open a new Finder window, then you could go into the sidebar and then find it. And then the contents would show on the right once you it would show, and then you'd uninteract from the sidebar. But for me, it's just so easy just to do everything quick on the keyboard. So it's been more of a visual thing, but I guess, does anybody else have a better use case for the sidebar? Because I don't really use it either. Herbie? You were saying
There are
something?
some folders that I don't know if they have shortcut equivalents. Like, for instance, if you use iTunes to download everything, you need to use the sidebar to get to your music folder that's actually on the Mac, unless you change the destination.
Actually, all you'd have to do is go Command Shift H, MU for music, and then MU again, or down to music, and then you'd find it that way.
Right.
So you wouldn't
But the other
necessarily need to put it in the
thing-
sidebar.
Yeah, you could get to it that way as well. And then, of course, you also need to know the sidebar if you download to specific locations.
Well, the sidebar is very useful for saving.
Yes.
When you save a file, it can be useful to select a location in the sidebar. But just for casual Finder navigation, I don't use it. So maybe we confused you more. I don't know.
Size. List view. Table.
This is Jason.
Yeah, Jason.
Going back previous to like kind of like you're working with I'm trying to think through. Is there a way if I have a folder open with stuff in it and I want to create a new Finder window, but I'd like to be either at that same location or one level up? Is there a way? Is there a quick way like in Windows, if I just do Control N on the Windows Explorer, it just pops up that identical folder, if that makes sense. Where you're saying when I do a Control N or a Command N on Finder, I'm going to go back to the default of that new, like if like for you it's the Dropbox, you know.
Right.
Is there
Yeah.
a way to, even if that's still on Dropbox, is there an instant way to get to, say, if you're 10 folders deep in a sense?
Yeah, you just want to open that exact same area, but just in a new window.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. I've never encountered that. So, yeah, I didn't know Control N. Okay, interesting. I'll have to. Okay, wow, I
So
learned something new
I'm
there.
just kind of comparing it to my Windows
Right,
workflow, so I
yeah.
apologize.
Well, I use Windows. No, I use Windows, and I didn't even know about Control N. So
Yeah. If you're on Windows Explorer, you just do a Control N. It just duplicates that exact thing,
awesome.
and then
Oh, can you
so
duplicate a window? I will have to look that up. Darn.
okay.
Okay. That's a great question.
It's Dorothy.
Yes, Dorothy.
All right. I thought I was following the sidebar, but what's in the sidebar originally? Maybe I just don't know what the name of it is, but I know what in it.
So originally you'd have like in there documents, music, desktop, maybe let's see, just some other things, music. Those things would might be in there by default.
So like
You,
applications and airdrop and
yeah,
tags. Those are all okay. That's called the sidebar.
yeah. It's kind of to the left. It's the left. So it's to the right of the toolbar
Mm-hmm.
and the tab bar, and it's then there's a vertical splitter separating it from the main list of files and folders.
Okay. I don't know if I've seen that before. And what is Spotlight and what's in it? And
So
where is it?
okay, Spotlight is basically your Mac's search feature, and that can be customized in system preferences. But the keyboard way to get to it is Command Space. You can also get to it in the Control Center, but Command Space is the easiest. So you can type anything in Spotlight from the name of a file or partial name to typing in a word to get a definition or typing in, what's 2 times 2. It's kind of like the textual, it's kind of like typing to Siri instead of talking. It's not using Siri, but it's in a way, I don't know. It's,
That makes sense to me.
yeah.
I've
Okay.
gotten to it by mistake, but I didn't know what it was, so I just come out of it. So I was
Okay.
like, "What's a spotlight?"
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Nancy.
Yeah, Nancy.
Can you talk? You talked about this a little bit, but I'm still confused. Like if I want to set up a folder that the main folder is job search, and then inside that folder is general job descriptions, and then cover letters in another folder. Can you talk about how to set up folders within a folder? Is that
Yeah.
Attachment
So what
demonstration
we
art.
did, oh, sorry. What we
February
did is
18.
okay, voiceover needs to shush.
Desktop.
Let me
Zoom
I
us.
can stop the
Zoom us.
sharing. Let's
System
see.
dialog.
Okay. I think that stopped the sharing. Let's see. Yeah. Hopefully it did.
It
All
did.
right. It did?
Yeah, you're no longer sharing.
Okay. So whenever wherever you want to create a new folder, you can just do Command Shift N. So if you you could create your job search folder, let's say inside your user folder. So if you did, Command Shift H, or even inside your documents, so you'd go to the folder where you want to create the other folder, and then once you create your job search folder, you could open that with Command down arrow or Command O, and then do Command Shift N and type cover letters, and that would be a folder. Or you'd still be in the job search folder, so you could do Command Shift N again and type job descriptions. So you can put in as many, folders and subfolders as you wish, basically. If that helps.
Thank you. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
try. I have a problem whenever I try to create folders somehow. I keep ending up with a whole bunch of things that say untitled. It made me laugh when you said that. Cause like, yeah, I have a whole bunch of those.
Yeah, I know. And if you're probably, if that happens, just rename it. Or if you've pressed Command Shift N and you think there should be an edit field there, just try typing and see what happens. If it makes some bonks or some other sound, and then you're obviously not in the area where you can type, and you'll probably have to go find the untitled, but chances are you'll be able to just type in the name and then press enter.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, unless there are any other questions, I think we will call it a meeting and next week go to Safari. So thank you very much, and don't hesitate to ask questions on the list, and we'll go from there.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
us.
Yep,
everybody.
thank you.
Thank you, Chanel.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good evening. Thanks so much.
You
See you
too.
next week.
Good night.
Why is